we take pride in satisfying every customer's financial needs.
Introducing the future of hassle-free and seamless financial transaction. The Una Wallet app, empowering you to effortlessly manage your money anytime, anywhere. With the Una Wallet app, you can now enjoy branchless banking, wallet-to-wallet transfer, wallet-to-cash, and bank cross-border payments, deposit at a bank, and withdraw from any Una branch. Get ready to experience the ultimate banking convenience with the Una Wallet app. With just few taps on your phone, you can effortlessly add funds, withdraw, and send money to your loved ones. The Una Wallet app also provides a detailed history of your transaction, making it easier to track your expenses. So, what are you waiting for? Download the Una Wallet app today on Play Store or App Store and say goodbye to hassle of traditional banking. Uno Forex Bureau Limited, delivering much more than money.
And welcome to another edition of our show, Kerr Fatou Thursdays. Today we are back again in the studio. Just like I said, it's important to have public officials on our show to talk about, issues surrounding their departments. And recently, I had a very fruitful conversation with the Minister of Finance, and we agreed that it's important that we have officials of the ministry come here to talk to us about their different departments. And this is going to be part of the series that we will be doing with the Ministry of Finance. I am told they have about 11 departments, so we'll try to have all the different departments come here. So if you see us not talking about certain issues, it's because the person that we are having on the platform does not deal with that area. But today we are starting with Alhagie Jallow. Alhagie is the Director of Revenue and Tax Policy at the Ministry of Finance. Alhagie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Fatou.
This is your second time on Kerr Fatou, though.
Yeah,
you were here on the brunch during
I was,
the oil market
OMC
issue,
saga,
OMC saga, and and that was good because when you came out and spoke to us about that, the oil marketers also came. They called me and they really wanted to come and also clarify issues, and that was very much healthy, and it helped us get an idea as to what the real issue was. And I'm glad to have you here. Just like I said, we're going to have this series with you and so many other directors from the ministry, because I am one of those people who believe that the Ministry of Finance, there's so many things that you need to clarify. I've said this. The IMF, the World Bank, the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, everybody is saying that our economy is doing well. I, as an individual, I don't feel that way. And I know so many of my people, so many of my neighbors don't feel that way. Sometimes these numbers that the ministry or the IMF will tell us is not a true reflection of who or what we feel on the ground. So these are some of the issues why we feel like things are hard, things are expensive. But it's important to hear from you guys just to tell us how these things work. So today we're going to have a conversation around, our tax policy. And I think that is important. First, let's look at, if I ask you, what is the state of our economy today? What would you say?
Once again, thank you very much for having me. If you look at the state of our economy, it's in a very good and solid state. And if you look at the projected growth in 2025, we are looking at between 5.6 to 5.7 up to 5.8, with all other things being equal, without any fundamental shock in both the global economy but also in the domestic economy. And looking at inflation, we also have managed to bring it down from a double digit to about 9.8%, compared to other countries where you have inflation of up to 42%. So, and I also believe that in terms of pricing, fuel prices, we are among the cheapest in the sub-region. So there are a lot of fundamental issues that are solidly helping the economy, especially when you come to the sectors that are driving growth, one of which is the construction sector. These are facts that are undeniable. If you leave your premises, you go, you see how construction is doing. And that is because the economy is considered by investors that there is a very positive outlook there for people to come and invest in those areas. And agriculture also have started to see very impressive growth. So those services sector. And services here, it goes beyond tourism, wholesale trade, and but also fintech. The recent arrival of Wave has also changed the dynamics in terms of what kind of services, especially digital services, that would also propel growth and also provide an inclusive economic circumstance for both government and also private sector, and also the less privileged groups of the society.
But
Yeah.
how would you say our outlook, economic outlook, is doing good? For example, number one, you said inflation is been brought to the single digit, 9 point something.
Yeah.
The things that determine inflation in the market is, I know you guys don't, it's GBOS who generate those numbers, but it's generated from the price of commodities in the market.
Yes.
Now, all of these commodities that we consume, the prices have not gone down. Maybe they have been steady. Some of them have been steady, some have gone up, but they have not gone down. How does that reflect of what GBOS is telling us, that inflation numbers have gone down? Number one. Number two, that is one of the determinations why we can say our economy is doing well. Number two, our dalasi continues to depreciate against all major currencies, the CFA, the pound sterling, the dollar, the euro. And still, you tell us this is one of the determinations, right? Our food prices are high. The dalasi is depreciating. At some point, even when the minister came to this National Assembly, he said the reason why he was late, I think, or the budget was he came to ask for supplementary, I think, and he said because the money that we were expecting from abroad was delayed or something like that. All of these factors are there. How is our economy doing well if all of these factors that I just said are still there?
The first thing I want to also give a disclaimer or some clarity with respect to inflation. If we say inflation have gone down by that much, it does not necessarily mean prices in the market are not going up, but it's the rate of their growth.
Where they go.
That is what we are talking about. Let's say month on month, if the inflation has been growing at 10%, the recent statistic is showing that it is growing at a lesser speed.
Less than 10.
So that's why we are saying generally inflation has been trending downwards from double digit to about 9.8%. So that's the context. Now, with respect to the dalasi, so this would be something that the central bank could discuss more deeply and more accurately. But again, I want to also just say that we are an import-dependent country. We basically export nothing.
Yeah.
And if you are importing, you are giving away your currency for another currency. So most of the time, that is putting pressure on the dalasi. And these are the reasons why we are having depreciation of the dalasi against major trading currencies. But again, despite that depreciation, our dalasi still remain very stable and resilient vis-a-vis other regional currencies. If you look at the CFA, the CDs, and the Naira, for instance, The CFA you can exclude because it's more or less indexed to the euro. But the Naira and the CD, if you look at how they have depreciated under Leon against the USD and other currencies, they are much at a higher depreciation rate than the Gambian dalasi. The Gambian dalasi, I don't think it has depreciated more than 5% in the last 6 months, because it has been hovering in the 70s up to $72 thereabout. So which is quite not a bad thing, especially given the global uncertainty that is being driven by the U.S. trade policies. Yep.
But it continues to depreciate against all the major currencies.
Yes, but not as much as compared to other regions. The highest would not exceed 5% depreciation against those currencies. Yeah.
You talked about services and you mentioned agriculture.
Yes.
How is agriculture doing better in this country? Last season was not good. How can we say the agriculture sector is doing good, and that is a determination why our economy is in a strong footing?
I think if you look at what we call the National Agriculture Survey, it's called a NAS report produced by Ministry of Agriculture. The data that we are getting from there is that output has grown, and it is estimated to continue to grow through the support of agricultural projects from Giraffe to Roots, and you call many of those projects. So it is based on these statistics that we are estimating that agriculture would continue to grow. But in addition to that, I think part of the tax policy support that we did for the sector was to look at how do we provide tax policy that will support mechanization and commercialization and improve the productivity of the sector. Is that we've passed a revenue measure to give a duty exemption on all agricultural equipments. So which means anybody who imports agricultural equipments, they would be entering the Gambia at free rate of duty. In addition to that, we also have looked at poultry, which is doing very well. And unfortunately, we don't have very good data around the production of these poultry farms and also other private agricultural farms. But what we have realized from the tax policy side is that their cost structure is very high when it comes to the feed. So if you want to help a business, you help the person from his cost structure. What is driving his cost structure? If you reduce that, then you allow him more cash flow to be able to expand. So we've also passed a revenue measure that has given a duty-free exemption on all poultry feed and as well as animal feed. So from January 1st, all of these things can enter the Gambia at free rate of duty, reducing the cost on the investors, but also allowing them more latitude to expand on those businesses.
What are the major areas that are really, apart from obviously taxes, what are the major services that, because I don't think our tourism sector is any existence as we speak, but what are the other major areas that are really helping to put our economy in a strong footing?
I think trade is one of the key areas, but also, like I said, construction has been the key driver of growth. If you look at construction over the past 5 years, it has grown between 15 to 20%. And I think it is the only sector that has managed to sustain that kind of growth, to the extent that it is the driver of our GDP in the past 5 years. And those are, even in the absence of data, you are seeing it when you go out.
Yeah.
And this is both from the government and also from the private sector. From the government, we are seeing the kind of roads that are being built, but also from the private sector, we have seen the kind of infrastructure that is currently being done that has never been done in this country since independence or since history.
Still, in that area, most of the material that we use for construction, we still buy them outside the country, and we're using different currencies that our dollars is not at par with. How does that balance? How does that measure that even though the construction is really prevalent in the country, but it's making any major impact in our economy? Because apart from cement, even cement, we bring a lot of it from Senegal. But recently there were some issues that it was boosting Jail and others and other local manufacturers, because there were a lot of taxes that you guys put on cement coming from outside the Gambia, and a lot of us believe that was you were trying to create a trade war between us and Senegal, and that was not even necessary. But yes, but apart from cement, what else do we buy from Gambia for construction? And how does that make our economy strong?
You know, when you look at economics, it's not about what you produce internally, but also what you bring at a competitive rate to be able to develop the economy.
Okay.
Even the US has a trade deficit, especially when it comes to their goods, you know, account. They have a trade deficit. So Gambia, as a developing country, it's normal to have that for now until such a time that we are able to diversify and then build up our productive capacity in terms of. But again, we at this point we need to import because we don't have the resources. If you go to the construction sector, for instance, cement, we don't have the raw material to be able to do that here in the clinkers. If you go to iron rods, we also don't have iron ores. If you go to the white cement that they call platar, we also don't have all of these things. So even if we had all the money in the world, we cannot manufacture it here because the raw materials are not here. We have to bring them and then, you know, try and sometimes if you look at it, it's not even cost effective to bring those things and start manufacturing because it becomes more expensive.
So mostly we are doing rebagging here.
Yeah, so those are the kind of issues we are facing. But again, I think the stability of the dalasi has been a very important aspect of why there has been a very high level of confidence in the economy. I'm not speaking because I work for the Ministry of Finance, but I'm speaking because, you know, we all go out, we see how other economies are faring, and we read data around those economies as well. And generally, if you look at us compared to those countries, we are doing quite well. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether you're the right person to answer this question, but, you know, at this point, we all have sometimes we can be skeptical when officials tells us this is the data and it becomes a different thing. We have seen what happened in Senegal. When this new government came, they told them, oh, this was our debt portfolio. This is our ratings. This is what we are, because countries do that to make sure they can attract funding from the IMF and other partners. When the Senegalese government came, they thought, oh, the finance minister told them behind closed doors that actually this is our debt portfolio, but we did this so that we can attract funding and blah, blah, blah. When they came out, politicians, you know, would obviously react and say, no, they are being political. But then the Court of Audits came out and echoed the same numbers. IMF also came out and echoed the same numbers. But these numbers were not the same numbers that the former government said. So will there be a scenario where we can see that in the Gambia that officials are hiding the numbers because we don't feel all of these things you are saying? Our prices are high, rise, all the basic commodities are still high, they're not going down. Our electricity is still very high, and all of this, but still you tell us that our economy is in a strong footing. How is that? How does that work? Because the economy subahe kañ kan man malo war na chip diwlin bi war na mun a niin. But if all of those things are not happening, how can you tell us that? Will we see a scenario where we pray it doesn't happen, but do you think that is possible?
I want to assure you that that would not happen in this country. Because our numbers are subject to very rigorous reconciliation with the fund and other development partners. And for us, we make sure that whatsoever we are doing is fully, you know, accurate and reported to the best of our recollection of the facts. So I do not foresee any instance of the incident in Senegal happening in the Gambia. And you know, these data that we will be reporting or we are reporting, they're available for everybody to see. If you go to the IMF website, they're there. If you go to the Ministry of Finance website, they're there. If you go to World Bank, they're there. So these are data, this is a data that is available to everybody to see. Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at the tax. That's your area, yeah, your directorate. What is Gambia's tax policy?
First of all, we first need to put context to tax policy because tax policy is a set of decisions and direction that would determine the tax system.
Okay.
And you know, since it's a set of policy decisions and direction to determine a system, that system is not static, it's dynamic.
Okay.
And that's why every year we come up with new tax policy measures or reforms. More recently, what we did was we've looked at first the income tax side. We've increased the tax-free threshold of all taxpayers, individuals, by 12,000. Previously, it used to be 24,000. Now it's 36,000. So it means if you earn anything 0 to 36,000, you are taxed 0 on that.
Okay.
So it is your next 10,000 that is taxed at 5%, and the next 10,000 at 10%, and it goes up to the top.
That is your yearly.
That is your yearly.
Okay.
So if you break it down to monthly, then it gives you like 3,000, and it goes in that
Okay.
fashion.
So if you earn more than 3,000, then you can be taxed.
Then you start
Below
getting taxed.
you can-
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I believe that was part of, you know, the tax policy measures to also make the tax system a little bit more progressive, so that people on the lower level are not getting taxed.
Okay.
But as you go progressively,
You pay more
you
tax.
pay tax. And the whole intent of taxation is to make it fair and progressive. Those who have ability to pay more. Those who have ability to pay less, they pay less.
Okay.
And that was one of the areas we did. The other thing we did was on pool betting. If you leave your premises, you go before turntable, you see the amount of betting that is happening.
Yeah.
And to some extent, we are losing our kids to betting, gambling, and all those things. So recently, what we have done, we assessed the revenue line for pool betting, and we realized there is a lot of potential. Few years ago, this was collecting less than 20 million, 30 million. But now, with the kind of reform, because yearly we are increasing the pool betting tax, I think we are almost edging towards $100 million is coming from only the pool betting.
Are you overtaxing them?
We are not overtaxing them,
These are
but
businesses too. In as much as we discourage the use of it, especially for our young people, there are businesses that are employing hundreds and thousands of people, and they're paying their share of taxes.
yes,
Just because there's some negative aspect to it doesn't mean we should overtax them. Then you're going to kill that business. When you kill that business, then you're putting a lot of people out of work also.
yeah, but you know, taxation has multiple objectives.
Okay.
One is to alter a behavior, 2 is to redistribute, 3 is to provide funding for government.
Okay.
So you cannot have all of this at the same time. You need to balance. But again, I believe we are not overtaxing, because the betting tax is just at 40%. That means if you win a bet or a gamble or whatsoever stake you put, when you win 100,000, you go with 60,000, then the 40,000 goes to government. In other countries, it's even much higher. In East Africa, it goes up to 50%, 60%. And in the West, it's even more punitive. So because it's, for us, we don't see it just as a revenue measure to bring us revenue, but we want to use the tax to alter or change the behavior of people who are, and most of them are minors even, actually. So the intention is not to look at revenue, but also to look at altering behavior for the general good.
Okay.
Yeah. So the third one is withholding tax. Before January 1st, 2025, we used to have a withholding tax of 10% for Gambian companies, and then 15% for non-Gambian companies. So, like for instance, if you provided service to government and they are paying you, they'll withhold you 10%.
They do.
Right? So what we saw, we did an assessment and we realized that that withholding tax rate of 10% was providing a lot of cash flow constraint for businesses. So we said these are businesses that are paying taxes and they need to have cash flow to be able to expand their businesses. So we have just reduced the withholding tax rate on public works, which are these construction works that require a lot of cash flow, from 10 to 5%, which is quite good. It's 50% reduction. And for other services, it's at 8%. So if you are being withheld at 10% before January 1st of this year, you will now be withheld at 8%. So
Starting
which means
January.
yes, which means you have an additional
I need to call some companies.
So you have an additional 2% cash flow that you can maneuver in your business operations. And for non-resident contractors, the rate has gone down from 15% to 10%.
Okay.
And I just want to say that a few years ago, we had an environment where taxes were mostly paid by resident companies. While non-resident companies who were coming to Gambia, winning a lot of contracts, they were getting away with all the monies that they were earning.
Yeah.
So we had developed a strategy called, because most of those things are funded by donors, and they definitely will need duty exemptions to execute those contracts.
Yeah.
So we developed a policy called the duty waiver policy that mainstream compliance management, tax compliance management within the policy, which means if you are a donor-funded contractor, you apply for duty waiver.
Yeah.
You first have to prove that you are fully compliant with our tax laws. That means you are paying your taxes, that is your PAYE and corporate income tax or your income tax, before we can process your application. And what we have seen that it has, resulted a significant improvement in revenue mobilization.
I want to still come to the tax, withholding tax. As a business, when companies withhold your tax, I know a few years back, when they do that every 3 months, when you go file your quarterly tax, you can take those
the certificate.
For example, if my withholding tax for this past 3 months is about, let's say, 100,000, but what I'm supposed to pay is not that much to 100,000. Before I can use the same certificate for the next 3 months because there's some amount there that you can carry over, right? But now that has changed. When you take a particular withholding tax to GRA these 3 months, and you want to carry it forward because it's not exhausted, they wouldn't accept it because you have to bring fresh new ones. Number two, for example, if they withheld, let's say, 200,000, 300,000 from you for the whole year, at the end of the year, when you go reconcile, you still have some money left, right?
It's called a tax credit.
You have a tax credit.
Yeah.
I personally went to GRA because I like money. I like my money. I went to the GRA and I said, I have been having tax credit for the past 2 years. And I still continue to carry it forward. Can I ask for a refund? And they said it's possible. But the process, you have to send it here, and then we do our audit and all the stuff, and it goes to the Ministry of Finance, because we pay to the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
So they are the one who determine that, and they will pay you back.
Yeah.
But I know it's a very tedious process. But the problem here is you withheld these monies from me. And then at the end of the day, it's difficult. We all know how difficult it is to get money from government. But it's easy for you to get those monies from us. And at the end of the day, we keep carrying forward 5, 6 years. We're still carrying forward. But now it's even difficult to do that because after every 3 months, you cannot use the same tax. Like the tax credit that I have for 2024, I cannot carry it forward to 2025. I have to bring fresh ones. How fair is that? Because at the end of the day, if you're taking these monies from me and I'm still carrying it forward, I'm not asking for a refund. If I come to 2025, I should be able to use it. Why has that changed?
No, nothing have changed. Taxation is about law. And then the law has clearly stipulated how you can access your refund, or if you have a credit, how you want to deal with it. If you want a refund, the law has stipulated that you make a request for a refund, and the GRA would send an audit to verify the claim for the refund. If they substantiate that your claim for refund is correct, then they would send the audit with a request for refund to the Ministry of Finance, for Ministry of Finance to process. But again, as a business, you are a going concern. They are not expecting you to close up the following day. So that's why, technically, it is not very logical for you to just be claiming your refund but you can use it as a tax credit. That's why the law has provided both claim for refund and also a tax credit. And the other thing is that so long as your tax liability is in a credit position, you can always send it as a tax credit for the subsequent tax period. So there is no limitation.
I'm going to cut this part and take it along to my tax officer at the GRS.
Yes, I would suggest you contact him,
yeah.
and then, you know, have a one-on-one with him. But definitely there is that provision that you can claim this refund so long as they are verified. Yeah. Then, and there is no time bound as to how many period that you can, you know, send this, you know, tax credits.
But we'll continue to be able to.
Yeah, you can submit them.
What I'm saying is, so
you can roll them over. That's what you mean.
Yeah, or every year you just.
Yeah, continue. if you are in a credit position this year, because you are expected to have liabilities the following year, so you can send that money for the upcoming year. It's permissible.
So will there be is there a way where at the end of the year the ministry can say whoever has tax credits, we refund them, just like we have in other countries in America? You know, at the end of the day they give you tax refunds, because at the end of the day, if I pay my taxes in excess, I would expect the government to say, well, you paid us, you overpaid us, here is the rest of your money. That is also something that should be possible. Is that not part of our policy?
You know, here the way it works is that our system is not so mature to be able to see who is buying what, and who is selling what, and who is earning what. And in the absence of that, you cannot open such kind of framework of refund to everyone. Because if you have to do that in the Gambian context, you need to audit each and everyone that is submitting a claim for refund. And the GRA, in fact, no tax authority has capacity to audit every taxpayer, even in the US. So that's why they allow you to fill your tax filing and send it to the IRS to process.
Yeah.
So I think we are not there yet, but the optimal level is to get there, but it takes so much time and resources to get there. But again, the good thing is that we have a very reform-minded Commissioner General, who is a bulldozing reformer. He has no limitation to reforms. His leadership for reform is exemplary. And I think one thing we have also learned is that at my directorate, his leadership has facilitated the job that we are doing in terms of policy. Because taxation is administration, tax administration and tax policy. The two combined becomes the tax policy of government. So we are able to work together, and he is a reform-minded person, and he does not resist any kind of reform that is beneficial to our tax environment. Yeah.
What are the other recent policies?
So the others that we have is that we also have but this one is not recent, but it was about 2017 or 2018. You know, if you import rice in this country, it attracts zero rate of duty. And also the tax law has also provided that rice is not VAT. There is no VAT on rice. We also have put in place a requirement where non-resident taxpayers or contractors are required to register with GRA, so that GRA can see who is coming from outside, conducting business here, competing with you, but not paying taxes here, so that they can go after them. So that if they have to compete with you, they must pay the taxes on income that they source here, just the same way like you are paying taxes on income that you are sourcing here. So we've made that also policy passage in the budget speech starting January 1st, 2025.
I want to come to the rice one. It's very important.
Yeah.
If you import rice in this country, zero tax.
Zero duty.
Zero duty.
Zero duty, zero VAT.
Zero VAT.
The only thing you pay would be custom processing fee, which is 1.5%, AU levy, which is 0.2%, ECOWAS levy 0.5%.
And still, rice is still expensive in the country.
Yeah.
I heard government say the objective was to make it affordable for the citizen.
Indeed.
What that means, me, the taxpayer, all Gambian citizens, you are the money that you are required to
Supposed
take
to, yeah.
from these people to invest in services in this country,
Yeah.
you are taking it away from us, and you are saying, look, let's have this money, use it to make rice affordable
Cheaper.
in this country. But that is not happening. Why do we still have that in the books?
Yeah.
Government is making laws but not implementing them. Because if we are giving tax breaks to people so commodities can be cheap in the country, we should follow up to make sure those commodities are cheap.
I think the intention, like you stated, was exactly to do that, to make sure that the price of rice has gone down by making sure that the duty element on it was eliminated.
Yeah.
But again, government cannot go and start telling somebody, sell at this price. We don't want to dysfunctionalize the market. It's a free market. We allow people to price so that they can sell.
Yeah.
So competition should be the driving factor to determine price if taxes are excluded, because all of them will be trading in the same environment. But it was very unfortunate that even after we eliminated the duty on rice, the price of rice still remained the same or even a little bit higher. And when they were engaged by Ministry of Trade and the Competition Commission, they came up with reasons such as the US dollar being a little bit more expensive and the global trade logistics, especially during the pandemic. All of those things they said were factors. But anyway, I cannot substantiate if those are actually the reason, but I know for sure there is latitude to reduce the price of rice with the amount of duty that has been eliminated from the importation of rice.
I think that is something that, you guys need, that policy you need to look at, because at the end of the day, even the dollar that we're complaining about, the central bank even went further to make it available for some of them, so they don't have those issues. They gave them priority. So if you're giving them all of this, giving them priority over other citizens, to waive taxes for them, also making sure there's accessibility to foreign currency when they need it, all because government want the food to be affordable, and they're not. It's not affordable. You don't think it's time to look at those policies, because that will stretch them. If you look at the policy and revise it, if you're not bringing the commodity down, we're giving you back the taxes. Obviously, they would want to take that. So I think that is also something. You don't think government should look at that? Because
I think it's
that's all of our money, all of us.
Yeah, it's part of the policy considerations. Since the policy was passed to make sure that there is a reduction in the price of rice, and that has not happened, we want to allow the market to try and regulate itself. And in most times, it's where the market does not sort out itself to the way that the economy needs it to. That's the time that government comes in. But government should not just be coming in anyhow. It has to be guided by facts, but also the way it comes into the market needs to be more strategic and systematic. It's not just to bump in and then start selling people. Because once you do certain things, then people go to hoard. And when you hoard, is the less privilege that you are trying to protect, they suffer the most. Because I can go and say to somebody who is hoarding, I'll give you a premium, you give me a bag of rice. But a poor person cannot afford to do that. So that's why government policy has to be very measured in terms of balancing the possible outcomes of any policy that is in play.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think
so the other thing, we also have recently inaugurated the tax tribunal. Taxation is about law, and also, when you want to make people part with their money, there is most often grievance and complaints. So the tax law provided for the establishment of a tax tribunal where taxpayers who are aggrieved can lodge their complaints and grievances for redress. So it is out there for taxpayers who are not, very happy with how their taxes are being conducted to take matters with evidence. And again, the evidence is very important, because everything in that is like a mini court sort of. So in the court of law, you have to provide evidence why you feel that you are aggrieved or what complaint you have. Yeah.
So what are the increments that we have seen recently? Because I see these stickers on all bottles. So, this is always my example when I talk to people. And this sticker is a reason for it, and it has to come from the tax revenue. What are the recent increase that we have seen in our taxes?
In fact, Fatou, for almost a decade, we've not increased taxes in this country. For almost a decade. Yeah. In fact, we've been going down. If you remember, a few years ago, we had corporate income tax at 35%. So we came down to 33, then to 30, then to 27.
Okay.
We also had personal income tax. The top marginal rate was at 30%, 35 rather. We are at 25 now. So rental income tax, we used to have it at, is it 15 or something like that? We also 10 for residential. So we brought it to 8%. So there are a lot of things that have been done. Instead of going up, we are going down. Some of the things that, like the case of rice, for instance, this sticker is not meant to increase any price. Because the cost of this sticker, if I tell you, it cannot lead to an increment on the bottle of water for more than $1. Because the cost of the sticker is 75 bututs.
Well, it did increase the water.
Yeah, but it should not. That's why it was priced at 75 bututs.
Okay.
Yeah? And the other thing that government did to make sure that there is no increase in water price, you know, these stickers, these are taxable services or goods, especially for VAT.
Yeah.
So the Ministry of Finance has eliminated the VAT element of the sticker. So which means this sticker, there is no VAT on it, just so we manage the price inflation by putting the sticker. So it's 75 bututs for this. So there should be nothing more than 75 butut for on the price of a water bottle. But unfortunately, it went up significantly. But the unfortunate thing that they do not understand is that, you know, the more you increase these prices, the more your possible tax liabilities goes up. Because if you are telling me you are selling this thing, you are selling it at 5, now you are selling it at 10. If you calculate your income tax or your profit would be much higher if all other things are constant. And most of those things are constant. So they are shooting themselves on the foot.
But at the end of the day, for me, you are saying no taxes have been increased. Not a single tax.
No single tax has been increased.
But recently, there was something that was increased.
Which one?
Is it? Because I remember even the president saying tax on Malafa only. There was one that he mentioned that
I cannot remember
but
any
there was
tax.
one. Yeah, there was one that he. There was one that was increased. I don't remember exactly. I might remember before the end of the show. But for example, even this water, right? This sticker you're saying is 75.
It's 75
bututs. That would have been the price that increased.
No, that's the sticker price. 75 bututs.
That's the sticker price.
So they were producing this water as is.
Yeah.
The only thing added is the stamp.
Yeah.
If the stamp is 75 bututs, then the price of the water should go up by 75 bututs.
But at the end of the day, me, the consumer, I'm paying extra $10 or $15 just because a sticker is put on this.
Yes.
How do we explain that? Because for me, I'm not looking at what government puts there. I'm looking at what
you are paying
I'm paying for.
Yeah.
And that is an increment to me.
Yes,
and
true.
It's been affected because somebody put a sticker on the bottle and the water company decides to put an extra $10 or $15 on that. At the end of the day, it is what I'm paying for the product that I am seeing. And this is that has been the issue. I've said this, and even my friends at GRA will tell me, no, you might understand. You can explain. I'm correct. The Director General will say that.
No, I think he is right.
He's right.
Yeah, he's
right.
But
at the end of the day, I'm not seeing all those logistics and others. What I'm seeing, how much I am paying for the bottle of water. I was paying $100. Now I'm paying $120. That is what for the carton, So for me, it is what I'm buying it for compared to what it was a few months back.
Yeah. And again, like I said, you can bring the analogy of the rice here too.
Yeah.
Because the rice, the duty elimination was meant to bring down the price of rice. So here, all we did was we added a 75 butut cost to the production of a bottle of water. So reasonably, you are expecting that the price of this bottle should not go up by more than maybe $3-4. If you even assume the cost of putting the sticker plus the cost of the sticker would be, let's say, $3, which I believe would not be per unit of these things. So again, like the reason why we brought this sticker, like the Commissioner General would always say, is to give us visibility. The most important thing in taxation is to be having visibility, to see who is doing what, who is earning what, and who is selling what. Before this sticker, most of these manufacturers would just report anything to GRA, and GRA would take it in good faith. That is voluntary compliance. It's self-assessment. You assess yourself, you take to the tax officer, the officer accept because unless you prove them otherwise.
Yeah, that's our policy.
Yeah, that's our policy, and it's a general practice across the globe. So before the sticker came, we were just taking what they give us. But surprisingly, when the sticker came, a year before the sticker came, we only collected about 12 million excise tax on domestic goods. A year after, we went to 100 million.
From 12?
Yes, from 12 million to 100 million. So which means there were a lot of products inside the market that were being sold and the excise on it was not reported. That's one. Secondly, there were a lot of products coming through the borders because they are porous, who were smuggled, and the GRA has no means to verify which particular product has passed through our custom post and has paid the taxes associated. Also, there were manufacturers or importers who were passing their products through the border, custom post or the port, paying all the taxes and competing with people who were not paying taxes on these things because they were coming through the unauthorized routes. So the sticker is meant to address both government concerns, the manufacturers and the private sector concerns, but also health concerns, because some of these things, you don't even know where they were produced. It could be at the backyard of people where the conditions are not so hygienic. So, like I said, the intention is health consideration, revenue consideration, and competition for the businesses. And we have seen that to has improved a lot. And like a few days ago, I was speaking to the Commissioner General. He told me one of the businessmen walked into his office and paid $27 million on excise because he imported. Because now he has a bigger market. He's not competing with people who are smuggling. He has the whole market to himself. So few years ago, you don't even think of that. Maybe if he brings one container, that's it for the next 6 months. But if you can just walk into and then pay 27 million, that's, it shows that these reforms are getting us to the place there where we want to. But again, like I said, you don't need to always look at, I know we are all economic people. You look at how much you pay for, but the revenue we are getting from this is what we are using to also develop the economy in terms of infrastructure, health, education, and then security. Yeah.
Well, some of us, I'll come to some of those things. Now, let's look at GRA, because, you've been talking about the tax authority. This year, you taxed them about what?
22.985 billion. Yeah.
Last year was
19.2 billion.
Year in, year out, you're increasing their
target.
And all of these years they're exceeding it. What that shows is there's so much money out there they could still get. Why the increment in their target? Is it because there's more they could get, or is it because they're getting more effective? Why that?
Yeah, there are several factors. The first one is the economic fundamentals. The capacity to mobilize tax is determined by the GDP. The more your GDP grows, the more you are expected to have capacity to mobilize revenue. The second factor is that GRA is increasingly becoming efficient. Like I said, the Commissioner General is one of the biggest reform-minded person you can ever come across. His leadership to reform is exemplary. And he has managed to bring reforms both from human capacity, but system-wise, to make sure that he brings taxpayer services more efficiently and the cost of collection is more efficient. So the third thing is that compliance with digitalization compliance become more improved. But also the fourth one is that we are touching bases that we were not, let's say for instance, non-resident contractors and suppliers.
Yeah.
Previously, they were not paying tax. But with our directorate, what we have come to do is that we say that cannot be the case. If you make money in this country, you pay the taxes on the income that you have earned in this country before you go and pay it outside. Because taxation, if you earn income here and you don't pay tax here, you go and pay it in another country because you will not escape anyway. And most of these contractors and consultants are in countries that are much richer than the Gambia. So why should we give our tax base to those countries?
Yeah.
We need the money more than them. So if they earn the income here, they pay the income tax here. And those are the things that we have done that is getting us to much higher levels in terms of tax collections. Yeah.
Still talking about GRA, we have seen this March, they said they've collected 2.6 billion, just like you said there. A lot of said, Ibn Fala, it's all coming from us. At the end of the day, it's all coming off. But I am one of those people who strictly advocate for, in fact, there was this year, I don't know why they're not giving it to us, but when we go to, every day, every month we go to the GRA office in Kanifing,
yeah.
They tell us, you are one of the only media houses that pay. In as much as today, Dalasilasa, we make sure we go and pay. And we're very compliant. That one, we don't joke with it. But GRA, they have been really aggressive when it comes to collecting taxes, and they're doing so well. But at the end of the day, if citizens pay these taxes, it is where you, the revenue people, the Ministry of Finance, GRA is taking all of this money from us. Ñu ay suñ business ñu ay ko suñ bopa diko dugal ci réew mi, and that is our role. Because I've always said to people, look, for one reason why we should, the tax revenue office, and I got this from the Director General, and I said this on my last show. There was this time, there were some negative stories about the authority, and he reached out and said, look, if you guys have any questions, let us know. We will answer it. We're available to you, because what we don't want is to the credibility of the authority.
Yeah, true.
We don't want Gambians to lose faith in the credibility of the authority.
Yeah.
Because if we do that collectively as citizens, we fight to take the credibility of the authority down. What it's going to do is going to affect all of us, because
Indeed.
the services that the government
Yeah.
provides is from all of this money that we collect.
True.
And that really stayed with me. When he said that, I was like, okay, actually that is true. Because if GRA is not able to collect money, how do we pay for all these public services that we're able to do?
Yeah.
And I think he has been able to keep the credibility of the authority intact all these years. You don't hear all these scandals coming from GRA. You don't hear internal issues and all that stuff.
No, one thing I can tell you, his leadership is unmatched.
Yeah.
And he has very strong open door policy.
Yeah.
So for him, credibility is supreme. Service to the taxpayer is also supreme. And that's why for him, he doesn't close his doors to taxpayers, neither does he close his doors to even, people who are not even taxpayers. So he has a very unique leadership style, and in terms of reform, he's top of his group in terms of his drive for reforms and results.
But can they do even better than this? Because at the end of the day, as we speak now, GRA is going to be under so much pressure because to be able to raise more funds, because we have a lot of donor fatigue right now, especially one of our biggest partners, the United States. We have seen with the new administration, their policy is to withhold the donor money from all. That is not just unique to Gambia, but it's all over the world. And countries now have to do serious reforms to see where those funding gaps that are coming from the United States, how do we fill them? What is GRA going to do through your ministry to be able to fill that gap? Because obviously it's going to affect our budget support from the United States and its USAID and other projects that respond. Even the ECOWAS code that we're trying to establish, most of it should have been coming from from United States and its partners, all of those, how are we able to generate these funds locally to be able to not fill the gap that is being created? Because this was not planned.
Yeah, it was not planned, but it's as if we as a country also anticipated these kind of things. We were working on some strategies to make sure that we localize our domestic resource mobilization strategy. So we are currently developing a strategy that will give us a medium-term horizon of what are the needed tax policy reforms that will lead us to fiscal sustainability or fiscal independence. And the intention of that is to depend wholly on your capacity to generate internal resources to give you that latitude to fund your government programs. So it will be like a 5-year program or strategy that would identify the key reforms from each angle of government operations, and it will come up with quantifiable, revenue potential to fund the government development agenda in the next 5 years. That is one. The other thing is that digitalization, like we always say, would give us that latitude to expand the tax base, because a cash economy is a very difficult and complex thing to manage for tax administration. Because if I sell this and I decide to pocket the money because it's cash and not to report to GRA, GRA has no way of knowing.
Knowing that, yeah.
And we are not in the culture of asking for receipts. But central bank is also working to make sure that there is, full digitalization of payment systems.
Yeah.
And we have engaged the governor of the bank, myself and the Commissioner General, to help us facilitate, the digitalization of payment systems so that we can fully, reap the dividends of the kind of businesses. Because what I used to tell people, if you go to, before you know there's money in this country, just take like Saturday or Sunday, you go to Tropic. It's always jam-packed.
Yeah.
But hardly would you see most of those revenues or, VAT that they would collect feeding their way through to the GRA. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that we have a system that automates all the selling and payment, but also the receipting of all of those VAT to a server at GRA. So that GRA will see it before you even file your returns. They will say, Fatou, in this month you sold this much, this is your VAT, please, you are filing, come and pay. So I think we are on the right course. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult before we stabilize, but we will get there.
Like the coming of these wallets and all this,
Yeah.
like Yona wallet, APS,
Exactly.
Wave, how has that helped with the getting more revenue as a revenue authority?
It is on two.
Because at least you can account for money going through these services, right?
Yes, we've not started doing that data triangulation or interfacing, but even before that, we have seen like Wave, for instance, is becoming, a very vibrant operator. And, if you're an operator and we are vibrant, you also pay taxes.
Yeah.
And we have seen the volume of taxes paid by Wave to be very substantial, especially on corporate income tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now, let's look at the GRA collections and some of the projects that it's funding. Is there, because they're collecting about what? 20 this year 22.9.
Yeah.
What kind of project can that fund in the country? Because these roads, how much money it costs. Schools, the education department, the ministry of all these different ministries. How many % of our revenue how many % are we of our GRA collection funding
is going to
our budget?
Capital, okay.
Yeah, our national budget.
Yeah, we have, like, if you look at especially the rural roads, most of the rural roads that the president went to visit,
yeah,
those are all GLF funded.
Wow.
GLF means the Gambia Local Fund, which means revenues collected by GRA and other MDAs.
Okay.
And I think over and above that, even this Batil Hardin, government is almost a major financier of the Batil Hardin. Because we had a group of Arab, financiers, and government also putting in some money. So many people think this is all loans. It is not all loans. You have a good amount of money that government has paid for from our own local taxes. So that's why when people ask me, where is our tax money going? I tell them, go and look at Batil Hardin. Yeah, Batil Hardin is a very good example. It's just that we are not doing certain things. Let's say, if you go to East Africa, what they do, if they finance a development project, for instance, through taxes, they normally would put signboards there to say, financed by your taxes. So that everybody who passes there would not be asking, where is my money? If we've been doing that, then nobody will ask about, where is my tax money going to? You go to Nyomi Hakalang, it's your tax money. You go to other side of it, it's your tax money. Most of the EPC roads you are seeing there, these are taxpayers' money that is funding it.
But there's a lot of money also that is coming in from the donor partners.
Yes,
towards our budget support.
Yeah, but budget support does not mostly finance roads.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not much. It cannot finance roads, for instance. I think budget support, what we have for this year budget is about 3.1 billion. That cannot even do maybe, few roads. So I think a lot of the roads we are doing, especially most recently through the fuel levy in the price structure, is what is driving, our infrastructure. We have really managed to internalize our infrastructural development. Yeah.
Okay. Now talking about taxes still, tax waivers. To me, that is where my biggest problem is. Us, the small businesses who don't have any significant capital, we're making hand to mouth. Tey nga jot check, ele nga fay lolu salary. Nga tok the whole month dara neku sa account, nga jël ben check rek dem fay sa courant. That's how we are living. But still, we still pay our taxes. We are required to pay our taxes every 3 months, to file every 3 months, and then do our yearly returns, right? But government I have not had or haven't seen any major, any tax incentive for small businesses like mine and other medium businesses, because we are small. You have medium ones, and then you have the big corporations. But still, we have multi-million-dollar companies that are coming into the country. They are giving tax waivers. They're giving all these tax incentives. I understand we want to attract big companies to come into the country. But at the end of the day, what are they doing here if they are not paying taxes? What is the point of having them here at the end of the day? So why these tax waivers? Last year, it was reported that you guys gave out 4 billion in tax waivers. Who is qualified under our laws to have these tax waivers, and what is the determination? Why not us, the local small businesses as well?
First, I'll start with where you ended up. I think our intention is in the development of our domestic resource mobilization strategy is to come up with strategies on tax, how to support small businesses, how to help them formalize. That will be part of the reforms in the strategy. Okay. Now, coming to tax exemptions. Before our directorate was set up, we had instances where contractors or concessionaires would be benefiting from tax exemptions while they were still owing government some taxes. Because most of these tax exemptions are on imports. Okay. But you also have domestic tax liabilities, like some of them had VAT, some of them had corporate income tax, some of them had PAY on their staffs. They were not paying all these things, but when they bring material to do the projects, we were giving them tax exemptions. So when we checked, we said these tax exemptions are a privilege, and a privilege that you would have to manifest your responsibility. The first thing we do is that if you owe us any VAT, any CIT, any PAYE as a contractor or concessionaire, go and settle your bill at GRA. Come, then we discuss your application for duty waiver. In fact, the first time we did that, one of the concessionaires managed to go and pay $3 million to GRA. Few months ago, we also had another person pay similar amounts. So incrementally, they are now fully compliant on their on their domestic tax side. So now, who is eligible for tax exemption?
Yeah.
You know, tax exemptions are sitting in different tax laws, different legal instrument in the Gambia.
Yeah.
You have in the Customs and Excise Act, there is a provision for tax exemptions for what we call the privileged institutions or persons.
Yeah.
You also have the Vienna Convention that gives tax privileges to diplomatic missions and diplomatic agencies. You also have NGOs who are doing charitable works. You would also have government concession contracts or government contractors who are doing, let's say, road infrastructure. Because the reason why we do that for those kind of contractors is that if they pay these taxes, they bill government. So it's like you're having to take money from him just to pay yourself when you could have just, knock it. And the other thing is that some of those contracts are financed through loans. And the general conditions of those in multilateral institutions is such that for project financing, their project finance should be exclusive of taxes, should not be taxed. So, and you also have the GAIPA Act, which is the investment code to promote investment.
Yeah.
We have provisions for tax incentives for people who are investing certain threshold of $250,000. And that number you just quoted, if you look at it, half of it was GAIPA SIC related exemptions. So it had nothing to do with tax exemptions we were giving to other categories, but half of it was for GAIPA. And the other half would be for government contracts, but also government imports. Let's say for Ministry of Health, for instance, when they import hospital equipments, medications, and the schools, all of those things are coming at duty-free. So that number, if you look at it in aggregate, is a lot, but if you disaggregate it, you will see every person going to a beneficiary that is anchored by a provision of a law or a legal instrument that will give us powers to do so. So they were not given out of the blues. For every exemption given, there must be a legal framework that gives rise to it. Yeah.
So meaning it was all of those tax waivers were. But so what about the small and medium enterprises? Is there any reforms that you're looking at to see? Because at the end of the day, the reason why businesses don't grow is because of taxation.
Yes.
Because a small business that doesn't even have a big clientele and they're required to pay corporate tax, they're required to pay employee taxes, they're required to pay all of these taxes. And then at the end of the day, like GRA tried to force me to pay, to have VAT. And I said to them, look, man buguma leka sen halis. As a struggling business, if you ask me to
register
for VAT, and this is something they have to also look at. If you ask me to collect VAT on your behalf, and my accounts are always overdrawn, now at the end of the year, how am I able to pay that money?
Yeah.
Because I've already used it. So that is a consideration that they also need to look at. And
no, we are currently looking at that.
A lot of businesses will go through that. I know they say, oh, if you make above 2 million, you have to automatically register for VAT. But also, you have to look at the structures of businesses, small individual corporations that are not very financially strong. You collect government money, because this is government money that you are collecting. It's not your money. You're collecting on behalf of government.
True.
But you collect on behalf of, at the end of the month, you're not able to pay. You're putting more stress on that business. And that is a side that they also need to look at. I understand they want to collect more money, but they also have to look at, you don't want to put government money at risk also.
Yeah, true.
That is something that they need to look at.
I think we are considering some policy options around that.
Yeah.
I don't want to preempt, but once we are fully into the DRM, that is the Domestic Resource Mobilization Strategy, we will be inviting stakeholders and the CSOs, maybe you guys would be part of it, to see what are the policy options that we've identified in the strategy. Because that strategy is meant to be a communication tool between government and citizens. to improve the social contract between government and the citizens on tax matters. But again, in the current tax law, especially on the Customs and Excise Act, there's a provision for to support investors, such as if you bring capital equipments, plant, and machinery. If you are an investor who is doing that, the law also permits the Ministry of Finance to give you exemption. So whether you are a small business or a big business, if you bring things that qualify under that schedule, which is the third schedule of the Custom Act, Part C, then you can also benefit for those exemptions. So those are the kind of things that the tax law has already provided support for. But the other final point on this particular case on tax exemption is that we are currently reviewing the GIPA Act. Part of the revision of the GIPA Act is to realign it to the global practice in terms of tax exemptions, because it is becoming more of a race to the top. Like countries are using tax exemption to entice investors to come. But again, there is also a global drive to make sure that these tax exemptions are not abused by multinational companies. So maybe in the next few months, you will see or you would hear some significant adjustments in that act to make sure that we cover some ground. That would give us at least additional fiscal space to be able to provide tax incentives for small and medium-scale businesses to also have tax holidays or tax amnesty, I'll call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the oil marketers. You know, the last time you were here, you know, and it was because there were issues with the ministry and the oil marketers. It was a back and forth, especially under this minister. It looks like oil marketers, you know, they believe you are taking a lot of their privileges, and there have been one or two incidences where there was back and forth, right? But recently we have seen that something happened again. Now, what is the situation? Are we still subsidizing for the price of oil and other, you know, and commodities in the country? What is the situation with the oil marketers as we speak?
They submitted a request to the Ministry of Finance for an increment on their dealer's margin.
The dealer's margin?
Dealer's margin, which is their margin for operating, for selling every liter of oil, which the minister has approved for petrol. So before the increment, the dealer's margin was at $5.05 bututs. So with the increment following their request, it has now been increased by $1. So which gives them $6.05 bututs per liter.
How does that translate to us, the consumer?
No, because you know fuel is a regulated market, so it does not change the price structure. So the price at the pump still remains the same. So we add from our margin to be able to give them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but everything else is fine.
No, everything is okay.
We don't have to worry about.
There is no cause for concern at this point. Just that what happened was, you know, the oil industry operates within multi-sectoral regulation. You have the NEA, you have the PURA, you have the local government authorities, all of them putting some levies for their, you know, agencies. And it's what has also disturbed oil marketing companies to a large extent. And it is in consideration of this that the minister made an approval for their dealers' margin to be increased by $1. Yeah. But we don't currently, I don't see any tension, because when they had the meeting with the minister, I was not around. I was out of town, but eventually their request was honored for PMS.
Okay. Now, one other tax area where I wanted to look at is the Africa 50. I know the concessions and all those is not your area, so you will not be able to speak. We'll have the relevant department to talk about that. But the tax component, it's been reported that by one of our resident economists that you're giving tax waiver to the Africa 50. I remember speaking to the minister about this over the phone. It was not an interview, but his argument was Africa 50 is part of ADB and others. But Africa 50 is a business component of the ADB. They are into business. They even go into business with ADB. When they go to business with ADB, they are treated just like a business entity. Why are we giving them tax component when already we all believe that the money that they are paying for this partnership is not even much? Why are we giving them a tax waiver?
No, we are not giving them a tax waiver
They are not paying
over and beyond what the statute of Africa 50 has given them. You know, Africa 50, like the minister said, is an agency or an instrument of the AFDB. And AFDB have a character of a status that give them full exemption on income tax. So, like if a parent company has tax privileges and it created an other entity which is 100% owned by it, those tax privileges in the parent company also covers that entity. And that's what the minister was telling you about. And it's not that we are giving them the exemption. We have ratified a statute that gives them that privilege as a member country.
So they're just making free money in our country without paying taxes?
Not free money. I think it's not free money because they've given us, you know, about a shareholding percent into that concession. Yeah, so it's not free money. And I believe they are in their right place to have those exemptions because the law provides it for them. It's like you, if today you go and bring, let's say, you want to go into creating an industry, you bring a juice manufacturing machine. If you bring, I cannot deny you because the law already has given you that power.
So if I want to be into rice importation, I'll be exempted for it, all of those.
No, rice, because you are not bringing any machine. For rice, you have no duty, no VAT. You can just bring it. But if you are bringing like what we call capital goods, plant and machinery, the government cannot deny you that. Because so long as you fit the requirements to say this is capital goods, plant and machinery, you have to benefit. So it's the same thing with Africa 50 and the AFDB. The law already provides that for them.
Will it be right to say the rich people, I mean, that's even in America, because the last time I checked I pay more taxes when I used to live in America than more than Trump was paying with all his billions. So why is that generally the rich people who are supposed to pay more taxes because they have more money, they are able to pay more, but they pay less compared to us, the people below the ladder. Why is that? Why is tax structures developed in that structure? Because at the end of the and I think I believe, I don't know what your answer is, I believe it's because they are rich, they're influential, they can influence the policy makers. Because these are not just manufactured things that are they are stagnant. These laws and policies are made by people.
Yeah, I don't think taxes, especially in the Gambia, the tax system is designed to do that. But
the rich people are not paying
globally,
they are giving tax waivers and all that.
No. The rich people are not given any tax exemption. It's the companies that meet certain criteria and provided for in the tax law or in other laws that would benefit from this exemption. And if I come to your point that the rich people globally paying less taxes, is because if even outside the Gambia, these people have more capacity to hire experts to give them proper tax planning than a poor person. I cannot afford to pay the smartest tax expert to prepare my books if I were to be in business. So for the US, that is what is happening, and in any part of the world, no tax system is designed to give unfair influence to the rich, but it's their capacity to do tax planning and also do anti-avoidance avoidance schemes within the way they do their business of taxes. That's what gives them that leeway. But legally, you know,
they're influenced too because laws are made by people. and they have influence to influence these lawmakers or these policymakers to be able to have good tax laws. Like recently, in Congress, they're about to pass a new tax break that will give billionaires and basically paying nothing. But it's influenced by,
Yeah, but in the Gambia, I think we don't have that because as far as I know,
big corporations don't pay a lot of tax. They get all these incentives.
No, they do.
Big corporations have a lot of incentives. Tax relief, duty waivers.
No, duty waivers, like I told you earlier, for you to qualify for a duty waiver, you must meet the set criteria. Whether you are a big corporation or a small corporation or a small business or even an individual.
What I'm trying to
say
here
is you will still get those benefits.
These thresholds, these policy documents are developed by human beings, individuals.
Yes.
It's a policy by government or by a corporation or either PURA or Ministry of Finance, government as a whole. It's done by policymakers. It's done by people. And these policies are developed, and most of the influence is coming from the rich people as to what they want. They have access to power. They have access to these policymakers. The access they have, the ordinary man from Mandinari doesn't have. So nobody is representing our tax ideas, the breaks that we would need. That's what I'm saying. It's all over the world.
But I want to tell you, in the Gambia is different, and I'll tell you why.
Why is it?
And we have the evidence. When our directorate was set up, we looked at the tax ecosystem.
Okay.
And we realized there were major contractors who were doing business and they were not paying the taxes. Like you said, they were even paying less taxes than you. But what we did was we submitted a policy briefing to cabinet, and then the cabinet approved it. So the GRA was asked to go after them. And they went after them, and all of those people now are fully compliant. So I think in terms of us having a more progressive tax system, from the executive down to the technician, we are driving in that lane. And we have the full commitment of His Excellency the President. He doesn't joke with taxes. Yeah. And he would say this thing every time. Anytime we have issues on tax, if you go and explain to him, he would say, go after them. He's a businessman. He knows the implication of not paying taxes. Yeah. Even yesterday, if you listen to his speech, he was talking about tax compliance. So I think we are in a very good state if it comes to the taxation of, powerful interest groups. And in fact, the kind of reforms we are doing, if that your logic worked in the Gambia, we will not have this thing. The tax stamp we will not have. Because there was a lot of resistance by powerful interest groups. And these are corporate bodies. But because there is no political support for them to win the battle against us, and we had a Commissioner General who is very resilient to reforms, and he bulldozes anybody who would stop our reforms. We were able to pass this thing, and many, many others are coming on the pipeline.
It seems that the ministry has a lot of confidence in the leadership of the GRA.
Definitely, we have strong confidence in the Commissioner General and his leadership. Yeah.
My favorite person there is Esa.
Esa
is my guy. He's a good guy.
No,
I mean, they're all my people.
He definitely
but
is.
Esa, they're doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. My first business, when I opened this business, the first payment I had at GRA, I was excited. Like, you're looking forward to that check. It's coming. And I just somebody time home, and then they told me, oh, your check is at final signature at the Commissioner General's office. I was sitting waiting for that call to see the check. Every minute I was calling. You know what? I got a call from tax registration office to say, and I was scared. Police and I was sitting. I got a call. Fatou Toure, yes, is that Fatou Toure? Yes, this is Mr. So-and-so from the GRA tax firm. Have you registered your business? Have you? And I was like, at that point, I was like, register what? Because I used to have a small outlet before, that was a one-man thing, and
But in our system, the system they're using, if you are not registered, they cannot pay you.
My check was raised up to
but
signature.
they cannot finalize if you are not on the system.
The Commissioner General refused to sign the check.
Yes.
Because the first thing he asked, I guess he did not see the withholding tax being removed, right? So because he didn't see that, he stopped the check and told them to call me to go and register. Time bobu mangi digante dunda ak there for that check. And then they called and they said, you know, did you register your business? I said, no, what do I require? They said, you require this and this and this and this. And before I could get that check, the check was sent back to the treasury to go or do whatever they need to do. And then I had to go register from that day. Well, that's why when I got my certificate as a compliant, I said, I want to thank the management of GRA, especially the Commissioner General, because he made me to be compliant. It was so serious for me, for the Office of the Commissioner General, whoever, to call me to say, go and register. That means they're watching me.
No, they're watching everyone.
So I have to be careful. They're watching everybody.
They're watching everyone.
So you have to be careful. You have to make sure you pay your obligations. From that day to day, even if it's $1, I just make sure I pay it and I pay it on time. So those things were very significant for me. And I said, you know, but at the end of the day, it only shows that you have to be committed to your obligations.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that because as a tax authority, you cannot pay somebody who is a taxpayer or a business and it's not registered.
It's not paying tax to
Even if I were the Commissioner General, I would not pay.
Yeah.
And if you were the Commissioner General, you will not pay.
Next time,
No, he would rather walk you through the process to regularize your system or your status than tell you, I will not pay you.
Yeah, I was not happy at that moment, but
later you thank him.
Appreciate it.
That's the nature of person he is.
I came to appreciate the gesture because I said, you know, you made me respect my obligations.
Yeah.
And today that earned me to even have this recognition as a tax compliant and number 2 in the whole country in the media category. And that only solidified, you know, my role as a citizen to be able to. I was not happy that day, but I appreciated the gesture later on. I think that was good. Now let's look at councils. You know, councils have always complained that you guys, GRA, have taken over all their payments. Like for example, if I live in Brikama, there are certain taxes. Because I am the one providing services for the companies that are within my area, but I'm not collecting all of those taxes. It's all given. I remember it happened during the JAMA time, but it still continues. So they are not able to provide certain basic services because the companies or the corporations in their areas are paying all of these taxes. For example, the NRA collects all of these billboards and other taxes, whatever, and the other GRA collects all other taxes, and they say they will give it to them after. It doesn't make sense. Why can't councils collect their own taxes for services that they are providing to people in their areas?
GRA is not collecting any local government taxes other than the car park fees.
The garage, car park.
That's the only one. And these car park fees, when they used to collect.
And NRA is also collecting something,
Yeah, for GRA, they're not collecting any. And as far as I know, government, because our collecting agency is GRA.
Why are they collecting the car
So the car park fees, there was an arrangement that was made. And before we even transferred that to GRA, they were collecting an amount that was not significant. When we took over this and handed it over to GRA and put it in the price structure for fuel, what they used to collect the whole year is what GRA collected in 3 months. And they should be grateful to GRA because, and the government of the Gambia, because we are collecting this at 0 cost of collection and giving them the money. Because collecting tax comes with a cost. But we collect these car park fees and give it to them without even deducting our cost of collection.
But why are you collecting it? If you are collecting it on behalf of them,
yes,
and they want to collect it, and have access to their money quick. Because remember, the process of getting money from government is tedious and is difficult. But if they're able to collect it on their own, the independence there, why are you collecting
So
on their behalf?
if they want to collect the same arrangement or process that was followed to transfer it to government, they can follow the same process and it will be given back to them.
But why can government do it? You are the tax man there.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have the power because this is not a tax. This is more of a fee. It's car park fees.
Yeah.
So they have to go through their line ministry, make the request, and then give the economic rationale or the rationale behind why they want to administer it, and then we can take it up from, and then you will be there to see. After 3 months, you can convert here, and I'll tell you.
Is it because
they will not collect?
GRA is more effective in the collection?
You cannot even compare them. You cannot compare them. They cannot be comparable. And they are even saying this thing. They are owing government some taxes. PAYE.
They said government owes them a lot of money.
Yeah, but they equally owe us a lot of money.
The government owes them a lot of money that they are not paying them.
No, as far as I know, their car park fees were being paid to them.
Okay.
Yeah. The only time that it was not paid is when we also did a compliance check on them and realized that they were not paying for monies held in trust. If I am a staff of the council, the council is paying me and deducting me my PAY and not paying to the government.
Yeah.
That is a money held in trust on behalf of government.
In that instance, what did you do?
And we instructed the accountant general and the internal audit not to pay any council who is holding monies held in trust in areas for government. Let them pay all our money because that was money entrusted to them to give to us.
Yeah.
If they liquidate, then we pay them all their money. But you cannot have my money and you ask me for your money. So it was recently I received a call from one of the, is it maybe the second or the third largest council or municipality, telling me that I want to report to you that we have fully paid our tax areas. I told him,
is that?
I don't want to mention names, but you know.
You said third or fourth?
Yeah, something like that. So for them, they have liquidated their position.
So all the others have not?
And Kuntaur, in fact, yesterday, I think they had, for them, they also liquidated. Because when we passed the regulation, Kuntaur wrote back to us.
What about this other one?
Yeah, Kuntaur wrote back to us to tell us now, we know we owe you, so you are supposed to pay us car park fee of X. Take what we owe you from that and you pay us the balance. That's how Kuntaur become clean.
So Kuntaur is the only one that is clear? No,
Banjul also called last week to say they have fully paid their PAYE. So now I said, if that's the case, then you are fine. You are good to go.
We can pay you.
So now GRA and Accountant General can proceed paying on anything that we owe you.
So the other ones have not?
Yeah, but beyond that, I think they have some compliance gap in terms of our tax laws. Because they are doing a lot of businesses like contracting, you know, constructions, and other procurements for which they are not complying with the withholding. And I believe that is a significant, you know, violation of the law. So it's not an issue of blame, but they need to also pull up to their compliance. Because for you to hold us accountable, you need to also hold yourself accountable.
As a tax body, do you think they need more capacity to be able to? Because I had the chairman of Brigama here a few months back, and I said, you know, I believe councils can collect more taxes if they are more effective, and
definitely
they said they have gaps in, you know, obviously they are not the ones who hire, they are administrative, they are hired by the ministry and other things. But do you think there's more room for councils to be able to collect more? What would really require the business to be
digitalization? I am in West Coast region.
Yeah.
I pay for them to collect my waste.
Yeah.
I'm paying somebody 500. I would rather pay it to West Coast than to pay it to an individual if they're giving me the services.
Yeah.
Sometimes I pay up to $1,000 because the guy will come twice a month or three times a month. So I give that $1,000 to West Coast so that they can even develop my neighborhood. Yeah. So I think they need to look at how they do business and try to embrace technology like the way we do. Yeah, that's the only way out. Without technology, they will be left behind.
They will be left behind. Now, one thing I want, because this is also your area, you know, councils, can they benefit from duty waiver from the Ministry of Finance? Are they not within that bracket to be able to get tax waiver from your ministry?
Tax waiver.
Duty waiver, if they bring in something.
Yes, I think in fact some of them they benefit for duty waiver, but through third party, like the councillors, for instance, they would have arrangement with donors outside who would give them something for the community, and they will apply for duty waiver and we will give them. We have those records.
Why didn't you give it to KMC when they had their trucks? That is for the people.
Yeah, but
that was a lot of investment.
Yeah, but that one was a different model.
Okay.
You know, the tax law is very clear what you can give waiver for and what you cannot give waiver for.
Okay.
That was a business arrangement. It was a commercial arrangement. So a commercial arrangement of that nature, there was nowhere in the law that we can give exemption to. If you come to my office, I show you the list of eligible entities or persons for exemption for duty, you would then understand that, you know, there were nowhere in the law that we can give them a waiver on that.
So they didn't qualify for waiver on
Yeah,
that?
they did not qualify for waiver on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
At the time, yeah.
Finally,
yeah.
Not finally, last one will be the importance of paying taxes, but second to final. When we make all these payments, we give it to government because we want improved services. We want our roads to be good. We want our water, all the things, the services, education, all the services to be good. So we, the citizens, can benefit from what we are. That's why we ask where our taxpayer money. But at the end of the day, expenditure, when we give you all of this money, is how you spend that money also. When I spoke to the minister, I was complaining about all of these, how do you call it? All of these PPPs that you guys are doing. In my words, I say, Alvin Nafeng will be African. He said, no, Mantra African. We're just doing private partnerships, but, you know, and that is helping. And he's one thing he said to me, Fatou, I hope you understand the constraints, the different, the award community, I don't know what to say, the stress that is on the budget, like different. For example, how he was trying to explain how all these private company like Gamcel, all these Nawek and all this stuff, how, for example, when they take loans and commitments, government could end up consuming it because they are not able to service all of this, the stress that we have on our budget.
Yeah.
And he even said it at some point at the National Assembly that we are in a debt distress, right? If we're going through all of this, why the excessive spending on government? You're taking money from us and spending it on travels that could have been avoided. Taking money from us and spending on areas that could have been avoided. As the ministry responsible for managing our funds, we owe it to you. That's why the biggest ministry I have issues with is finance. And I said it. I've said it here. When I said that about the minister, which I have taken back, we had a conversation. I said, I'm not going to say it. But that's what I believed. I believe that you guys are not doing well for us because of the way, even they were saying highly speak. Travel. You know, you look at the budget, you want to cry.
Yeah, but I want to say one thing. First, my responsibility as a director of revenue and tax policy is to mobilize the revenue through the policy framework. Yeah. The expenditure, like the minister told you over the phone, there will be a series of this conversation.
Yeah.
Some other directors responsible for this would come to discuss those areas. I don't want to go into someone's mandate to discuss things that I'm not fully. But I just want to tell you one thing. Government is not doing any expenditure that is not useful or excessive.
There's some are excessive.
That's one. The second thing is that if today you came to the Ministry of Finance as a staff of the ministry, the way you perceive government expenditure today would change so drastically that you feel sorry for us.
How?
Because government everywhere in the world has competing priorities because our resources are not unlimited. So we have limits to how much we can mobilized, but the resources to finance government expenditure is not unlimited. And then the government expenditure, like programs, are so much that we cannot afford to leave some of them. They are critical. Let's say these roads you are seeing. These roads, few years ago, from airport to Banjul would take you an hour or more. But development come at a cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to understand that. But like the minister said, somebody could come and speak on this thing.
But my thing is,
but I wouldn't call it wasteful expenditure. There is no such thing like wasteful expenditure in government.
Wasteful expenditure.
I don't think so. That I would disagree.
Yeah. When you look at the budget,
yeah, that I would disagree. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, but honestly, if you look at the budget,
that's my belief.
If you look at the budget, honestly, you interrogate the budget, you relate to it quite squarely. There is no such thing like wasteful expenditure
in the budget.
Yes. Maybe it's an issue of how you understand it or how I understand it, but as far as I know, wasteful expenditures cannot be in the budget because they will not even pass.
What is the justification?
Because the budget has a process of screening.
What is the justification of taking 20 to 23 people to the United Nations Summit when we could have sent just... Sometimes you have the minister, you have the PS, you have the director of this, you have all of these people that don't need to be in those meetings. There's a lot of travel expenses that we need to incur. I know.
I think what we need to do.
You want to say you can say that, but I believe there's so many wasteful spending, and a lot of people believe that.
Yeah, it could be their belief, but from our side, we know that government cannot embark on wasteful expenditure because the government responsibility on financial management is supreme. So if you are a supreme responsible entity to manage government financial resources, you cannot be wasteful because you don't have unlimited resources.
Maybe what you look at as wasteful is different from what we look at.
Exactly, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's an issue of understanding and classification. But again, I think, like the minister said, somebody would come and speak on expenditure.
I would love to have
so maybe contact him. He would,
I would love to have the expenditure guy to come because that is something. But also government, instead of, I think, like we said, services, for example, if we spend more on roads and other infrastructure, but we are not producing anything that will generate, funds for us also, is also something that's a policy direction, I know, but that is something also that will help because we cannot just continue to invest in projects that are just, I know we all want roads and all that stuff. We want them, they're important, but you also want to do it alongside with, a sector that will produce something that will be able to bring income into the country. And I know those are, for someone...
Yeah, but those we are doing, especially if you look at agriculture, the kind of support we are giving to agriculture, part of that 4 billion you are talking about, a good amount of it is also related to agriculture support. Those duty exemptions, they are related to agriculture.
Who's the biggest tax waiver we're giving to? Who are the top 5?
I wouldn't have it on top of my head, but I know it would be manufacturing, the manufacturing industry. Yeah, through the SIC, which is administered by GAIPA. Okay. Yeah, but I can't have on top of my head who exactly I want to name names. Not an issue of not wanting to name names.
Headlines out of that?
No, not wanting to name names, but I don't have it on top of my head because I was not prepared to do it. Yeah, not prepared to do it, but I was not, preempting that such a question would come up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Finally, the importance of tax payment. The importance of tax payment. I'm a big advocate for people to pay tax. It doesn't matter what kind of tax. Just pay your obligations as long as per the law. What is your final message to Gambians? The president made this call some time back. He said only 25% of the population are paying taxes. If you don't pay taxes, how can you tell government He's
right.
So all of those, for those people who are not paying taxes and those people who are discouraging people to pay their taxes, what is your message?
I think first is those who are holding government taxes in trust should surrender them.
Okay.
Those who are not paying taxes, they should endeavor to pay, because taxation is also a civic duty.
Yeah.
Beyond mobilizing resources, it's your duty as a citizen to owe up to the obligations of the tax law. The third thing is that the potential for us to be more resource reliant internally is there, because our tax to GDP ratio is still below the sub-regional average, which means a lot of the economic base for tax purpose is not part of what is supposed to be the resource envelope of government. So we should endeavor to support government reform in, domestic resource mobilization, but also be more, good citizens, so that we can also hold government accountable. Because if you are not doing your duty, you cannot hold me accountable. If I am not doing mine and you are not doing yours, we cannot hold each other accountable. So some of the people who are needed to support government agenda, we should support, because that's the only way we can move to the next level. We all want to be like Rwanda, we want to be like Singapore, but the way those people program their mindset to national development is different. That's why they got to a different level compared to us. So let's try and make sure that we all owe up to our responsibility as citizens to support tax collection and tax administration, but especially the reforms that we are coming with. For every reform that we come with, we can show you the evidence where we were and where we are with the reforms. And you, like you said, you are seeing where the money is going, infrastructure. Now you can enter any corner here and you have a third road, especially in the GBA, and most of those things are coming from our own GLF. But even those that we consider to be donor, they will effectively be paid through our taxes. So it's still GLF. So we need to also understand that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jallow, and for this insightful conversation. Hopefully, we have more people from the ministry to come. I am looking forward to hearing from the people from the expenditure area and the PPPs, those who are signing all these concessions.
So I'm sure if you speak to Minister, he would identify someone. Yeah.
It would be interesting to have those conversations, because it's important that the citizens hear from the public officials directly.
Indeed.
That way, whoever brings up another argument, we can always reference back to what you have said and what they are saying, and make a determination of what we want to believe.
Definitely.
So that is why it's important to have public officials talk to us about some of these issues, especially the Ministry of Finance.
Agreed, yeah. Boy, it's in safe hands.
Huh?
Be rest assured, it's in safe hands.
It's in safe hands?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's
right.
Mr. Jallow from the Directorate of Revenue and Tax Policies, Ministry of Finance. Thank you so much for coming. And we want to thank the Minister also for facilitating this conversation. This is a part of a series that we'll be having from officials. They want people to know what they're doing there, and we have the platforms. We want to hear from them. So hopefully we can have more of the directors come here, and eventually the minister himself to come, and we can have this conversation. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Jallow.
All right. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Good night to you all. See you again. Bye-bye.
We are happy to announce the launch of our new logo. We have evolved since our incorporation in 1997, and it is time to refresh our new look to reflect who we are today. Before I reveal our new look, however, walk with me while I take you through our journey of the last 25 years. Trust Bank was incorporated on July 3rd, 1997 and began operations on October 1st, 1997. Following the collapse of the parent company of its predecessor, Meridian, the CBG stepped in and recapitalized the bank and held the shares in trust, thus the name Trust Bank. In 1999, the first investors who responded to the IPO and paid $1.50 per share received their maiden dividend of 50 bututs per share. In 2000, The bank fully paid back its investment by declaring another dividend of $1.20 butoots per share, making it a cumulative dividend per share of $1.70, which was 20 butoots above the purchase price. Between 2002 to date, share capital has increased from $27 million to $200 million, indicating that the bank has grown organically by plowing back profits to increase capital, while at the same time paying dividends to shareholders. The bank was listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange in November 2002, being the first ever cross-border listing in the sub-region. Now let's talk about awards. The bank was awarded the insignia of the National Order of the Republic of the Gambia, ORG, in the year 2010 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of the Gambia. During the past years, the bank has received so many national and international awards. Banker Magazine, 6 times. Global Finance, 6 times. Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, 5 times. We began operations with 3 branches. Now we have 18 branches and 20 ATMs and counting. On digital services, mobile app, check. Online banking, check. Transaction alerts, check. Watch this space. We've got more coming. Creating employment, yes, we've got that too. 400 and counting. And we take great care of our people too. Medical insurance, life insurance, private and state pensions, annual pilgrimages for both Muslims and Christians, training, yes, we do them all. One team, one family, one goal. That's the Trust Bank spirit. On corporate social responsibility, we have spent over $50 million in various causes. We care, and so we share. Over the years, we have paid over $1.6 billion to our shareholders, which translates to a whopping $20 per share and counting. Phenomenal returns for our shareholders who purchased at $1.50. Corporate taxes, over $1 billion is paid. Our journey started with a vision to create the kind of company that delivers quality services and innovative products with an inspired team dedicated to serving our customers, our environment, and our communities at large in the most caring manner. We remain fully committed to delivering excellent services to each of our stakeholders, customers, employees, shareholders, and partners. So, we remain true to who we have always been.